Dyson is dominating the hair care field with its engineering, and the Airwrap made a huge splash when it was released back in 2018. Is it still a splurge-worthy hair tool today, or has the luster dulled like months-old highlights?
I recently bought the Airwrap for myself because I've been dying to find out, and what I found is that this device has its quirks and some limitations, but with a few tips you can get it to work for you. In this review, I'll take a look at what exactly you get with the Airwrap Multi-Styler, what each of the tools does and how well it works or doesn't, plus what you need to know about using each one, and if overall this very expensive hair gadget is worth the price.
Let's see what you get. The Airwrap is a beautiful package. The version I chose for myself is the Dyson Airwrap Complete Long, made for longer hair, so I think the tools are a bit bigger. The box doubles as a beautiful storage case with a lid that also works as a mat for your tools. It is quite large, but it easily holds all your accessories, and you can probably fit any extras you might pick up later on. The attachments included in the package are the Dyson Airwrap motor handle, a 30mm Airwrap long barrel, and a 40mm Airwrap long barrel, the Coanda smoothing dryer, there's a firm smoothing brush and a soft smoothing brush, plus a round volumizing brush and a filter cleaning ring brush. We'll get to these in a bit more detail coming up. Each of the attachments just clicks into place on the wand. On the motor, you get just a handful of settings. There's a power button, which is also the cool shot button. You get 3 heat levels and 3 airflow levels.
When it comes to using the Airwrap styler, there are lots of options, and I tried out each of them, so I'm going to share what each is designed to do. Let's start with this one. It's what's called the Coanda smoothing dryer.
Right from my very first use, I actually really loved this hairdryer. With its odd teardrop shape and strange maneuverable bar, it doesn't look like any hairdryer I've ever used, and initially I was pretty skeptical it could be effective. The attachment is going to be your first step, designed to quickly rough dry your hair in preparation for further styling. While the attachment head is quite small and the airflow nozzle is rather narrow, it has the extremely helpful effect of being able to get in and under your hair and closer to your scalp, which allowed me to blow dry and create a lot more volume than with a regular blow dryer. If you're just going for a smooth blowout, you can take it all the way to fully dry by using what Dyson calls the enhanced Coanda airflow to hide flyaways for a smoother finish. The small bar on the nozzle helps flatten those flyaways for a much smoother look. I found in my testing it was actually quite good at getting all the sprouty hairs to lay down.
I also ended up taking this on a recent trip since the Airwrap and the dryer nozzle packed up a lot smaller than my Dyson Supersonic, and I could also bring the other styling tools along too.
If you want a little more straight and swingy hair, you can choose between the 2 brushes in the kit. There's what's called the firm brush and the soft brush. I actually don't know which one is which because they're almost identical in looks and feel, but for the plastic nibs on one.
While I tried them both, I didn't really notice any difference between them, at least not on my hair. If one of these works for you on a different hair type though, I would love to know more about it, so please share the details in the comments.
In my testing, the brush attachments each did a good job of creating a sleek and slightly more volumized blowout than using the Coanda smoothing dryer alone. The brush attachments are also the ones you want if you already use something like a hot air brush styler. You can absolutely take your hair from damp to fully dry with these attachments on the Airwrap and get a really polished look. Let's move on to the round volumizing brush. I wasn't sure this brush was going to work for my hair, and admittedly it is a bit small for my longer hair. I think the tool measures about 1.5 inches to my eye, and Dyson doesn't really declare a size here, which is kind of odd since there are now 3 different brushes available, and not having sizes makes them a bit harder to shop.
Now there is actually a smaller brush attachment than this one, so I'm going to refer to this one now as the medium volumizing brush for now. Dyson also did announce a larger round brush in about fall of 2023, which I actually think is way better suited to the Airwrap long version than this one, and I'm betting that that bigger brush is going to be what comes on all newer kits.
Despite its smaller size, it does a great job of smoothing and drying, and it makes me think the new larger brush Dyson announced is actually going to be a massive winner for me, and I'll likely pick one of those up eventually. This size, though, doesn't give me as much volume as I want, but it is great for smoothing.
I was possibly most excited to try the curling barrels, since Dyson's much hyped Coanda effect lets you curl your hair with just one hand.
Coanda effect pulls hair onto the barrel of the wand and wraps it around with mild tension, holding it in place while it heats the curl. Each barrel has a nub on the end which allows you to switch the airflow so you can curl hair away from your face depending on which side you're using it on. Now, this may not make sense now, but it will if you ever use it. In my review period, I found the curling takes a long time. Because the barrel will only handle smaller amounts of longer hair and it simply won't load any larger pieces, it can take quite a while to do an entire head of hair. Plus, you do need to hold the hair on the barrel for about 10 to 15 seconds per piece so that it gets hot enough to hold, and a few seconds at the end of each one for your cool shot to lock it in place. When I was done, I found that for the most part, everything above my jawline was kind of flat, more like a smooth blowout than curls, and that everything below the jawline was kind of very 1970s, almost like Farrah Fawcett hair.
In my first tests with the curling, I found the curl didn't seem to hold for very long. I felt like before I'd even left the bathroom that many of the longest pieces of hair had actually largely straightened out. Determined though to make this expensive tool work for me, I tried it again several times and I ended up watching a few tutorial videos on YouTube, of course, for some tips. One of the recommendations was to make absolutely sure you give each curl a cool shot before you release it. The other was to shut the air off before you release the curl. Now, it did take some practice, but both of those things actually seemed to help.
The trouble with stronger curls is that for me and my hair and the look I'm going for, the parts that are most curled are mainly the ends. In fact, it curls the ends so strongly that they're about the only thing that remains curly, meaning that once the rest of your hair kind of relaxes, you still might look like you just emerged from the 1970s. The curls felt to me to be kind of too sweet and princessy with the ends all flipped up as they were. Definitely not my style.
It was back to YouTube to get some more tips.
A shout out to YouTuber Alex Gabourey here for how to get a beachy wave by suggesting using the curling barrels more like a traditional heated curling wand. And by that I mean holding onto the end of your hair and wrapping it more deliberately around the Dyson barrel and then keeping the end off the barrel altogether. I gave this method a shot and found it was able to produce a much looser curl that looked a lot less vintage.
A couple of takeaways that I found is it definitely takes about 15 seconds to lock in your curls or waves, and it absolutely helps to have very clean hair anytime you're using this device to curl. The air wrap just doesn't seem to stand up to a bit of oil in the hair like a curling wand or a curling iron can.
Overall, it has taken me some time and practice to get on board with this kit. While I was all over the dryer, it took me some learning to embrace the curling wand, but I am coming around.
On the pro side, this is a really versatile kit. From drying and smoothing blowouts and even curls and waves, it can do a lot of different things on a lot of different types of hair. The attachments for the most part work really well. I will call out that smaller round brush though and say that I hope newer versions of this kit get the new larger brush. Using the air wrap doesn't feel too harsh on my hair and the overall effects seem pretty good.
Having the case to store it in is nice too, and I like that all the parts come apart so you can travel with the air wrap too. On the flip side of having the case though, it is quite large and I don't really have any place to store it where it fits.
Other cons? Maybe not something I'm going to deduct points for, but you should know it's going to take some practice and experimentation to get good results for your hair. Now, the price for this device is also a barrier for a lot of people. Selling for a whopping price of about $7.99 Canadian or $5.99 US, this is a car payment all on its own, so you'll want to be sure you've got plans to use it daily and make the most of every attachment. But if you've got the money to invest in this tool, it is quite versatile and it does what it says it does with some practice. You can check out my other reviews of Dyson hair care products like the Dyson Supersonic Blow Dryer or see what else Dyson is known for right now.